latest ITV news in the Tyne region with Amy Lee, Andy and Payne.
Hello and good evening. Thank you for joining us.
On tonight's programme, a police officer is left with life-threatening injuries after attending the scene of an earlier crash in Northumberland. A 73-year-old man has been arrested.
Also tonight, disadvantaged, why white working-class boys are being left behind by the education system.
The project to protect one of our beaches from being washed away by wind erosion.
And pop pioneers will be joined in the studio by one of the founding members of Prefab Sprout.
First tonight, a police officer is in a life-threatening condition in hospital after a collision which closed a busy main road in Northumberland.
It happened late last night, and it followed a separate incident involving two other vehicles a short time before. Helen Ford is close to the scene on the A189 near Cramlington. Helen, explain the course of events for us.
Well, as you say, I'm standing close to a slip road onto the A189 Spine Road, where in the last few minutes, police who were blocking that slip road have now driven away, suggesting that this stretch of the road at least is now reopened. Now, this incident began just after 11 o'clock last night when there was a collision between two vehicles, and police say that there were no serious injuries arising from that. However, when police responded to that initial incident, a second collision occurred involving a marked police vehicle and another car. A police officer was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Meanwhile, a 73-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of causing serious injury by dangerous driving and remains in custody.
So two separate incidents, Helen, and today, throughout the day, tell us about the wider impact.
Well, as you can imagine, there has been widespread disruption throughout the day. The pictures that we can show you now were taken a little earlier. Nevertheless, those scenes were very much replicated this evening during the evening rush hour. Now, Northumbria Police are really keen to hear from anyone who saw what happened last night, in particular anyone with dashcam footage of the scene. Meanwhile, the force says that its thoughts are very much with the officer involved. Meanwhile, they're continuing, they say, to support his family and colleagues.
Helen Ford live for us near Cramlington. Helen, thank you.
Next tonight, and to the teenage boys who say they're being let down by the education system and what's being done to try to tackle it.
Yes, the inquiry into white working class educational outcomes is due to reveal its findings later this month. But exclusive data given to ITV News shows that white working class pupils are twice as likely to be absent from school and 2.5 times more likely to be severely absent from school, and that's missing more than 50% of their lessons.
We've spent time with young people in Gateshead talking about their experiences. Lewis Dennison reports.
In the northeast, growing up can be tough. White working class boys here are the most likely to be on free school meals and the least likely to pass their GCSEs. I spent time with Eric, an 18-year-old whose best friend, Thomas Olishak, was killed in 2022.
When I went to school, my attendance was shocking. I didn't have the greatest of experiences with school, and so in general I was ill. Obviously after school, my whole thing was, because I had had a bad experience with school, I don't need my GCSEs. And that was daft of us to think like that, because you absolutely do.
What happened with your friends?
I don't know. It's hard to speak about and explain it. He got stabbed by a lad who didn't know. It led to, obviously not just me, everyone who was there being in a difficult space at the time, mentally, in school.
You could go past the bus interchange if you want and pick up some young people.
It's the job of youth workers like Frank and Lucy to help young people causing trouble in the streets. So what sort of things are they doing?
Well, there's a lot of abandoned buildings around here, so they're just going in and out of that. The shops have said that there's been an increase in antisocial behaviour over the last year,
The government is launching Mission North East to help the region in September, but we don't yet know exactly what it will do.
Hello.
Neither does the Education Secretary. She met young people, including Eric in Gateshead, to find solutions. We hear about all the problems, but what are the solutions going to be?
We will be doing a kind of a formal launch event and setting out further plans on it. But I think I do have to be honest in saying that we do have some big ideas about things we want to do to make this work better. But if we had all the answers, we would have solved it by now.
With leadership challenges looming, however, it's unclear how long this government will have to smash the class ceiling. Lewis Dennison, ITV News.
And you can see Lewis's full reports on the ITV News YouTube channel. It's also on the evening news, which follows us at 6:30. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, a man is seriously injured in hospital after a stabbing in Belfast, which the Prime Minister has called sickening. A Somali referee is dropped from the World Cup after being denied entry to the US. And sky's the limit for the first British woman to cross the Atlantic by hydrogen balloon. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Now, if there was one thing you think you could take for granted on a Northumberland beach, it's not the sunshine, it's sand. But at Newbiggin-on-Sea, it keeps on ending up in the wrong place.
Yeah, wind and tide erosion mean that it's constantly piling up against the prom. It's making the beach smaller, but it's also threatening the sea defences. And so today, diggers and bulldozers started work to try and restore it. Our Northumberland correspondent Tom Barton has been to take a look.
On Newbiggin Promenade today, Arlie and his mum Katie had set up a picnic blanket for a very unusual show. Diggers and bulldozers moving hundreds of tons of sand around all over the beach.
He's absolutely digger mad, so yeah.
Perfect day out?
Yeah, perfect, absolutely, it's free. Definitely, and as you say, yeah, sitting in the sunshine, where else could you be? Is it good? A thumbs up? Yeah.
And the most important question, would you like to be a digger driver when you grow up?
Yeah.
If you'd been here last week, the sand would have been all the way up to here, to the edge of the promenade. Now, I'm 6'4" tall, so you can see just how far they've taken it down. What's happening to all of that sand? Well, it's being flattened out by that bulldozer, pushed out into the sea, making this beach wider and flatter.
This huge job undertaken every 6 months, costing Northumberland County Council £100,000 a year.
People need to have a beach that they can be proud of here, and that visitors can enjoy coming to Newbiggin and all the things that Newbiggin has to offer. It is very expensive, and it's really annoying that we have a prevailing wind that consistently comes from the same direction, along with the tides, and it's just an absolute menace. But it is something that we need to do and something we want to do, and I'm really pleased with the work that's going on.
But while it might make the beach more attractive, it also helps to protect the town's sea defences.
It effectively takes the wave energy further back, so when waves are breaking, they're imparting energy into either the sand, or if they're right up against the seawall. Over time, that degrades the foundations of the seawall itself. So the further offshore we can make those waves break, the longer life we can give the sort of built defences at the back of the beach.
Tyne and tide, however, wait for no one. They'll finish here on Thursday and then be back again in 6 months' time to do it all over again. Tom Barton, ITV News, Newbiggin-on-Sea.
Yeah, constant job, battle against the elements, but providing some free entertainment to some of the kids there as well. And it's strangely mesmerising, isn't it? So that's the battle against the impacts of the weather at the coast, and it's actually a similar story right across the region, from the lowest point to some of the very highest.
Yes, the iconic Rosebery topping on the edge of Teesside is also at the centre of a battle against erosion, caused partly by visitors and by the changing climate. Julia Bathroom has been to see how work there is getting on.
Rosebery topping is a well-loved landmark visited by thousands every year, and that love leaves a mark. Viewed from the air, the scars of footpaths are clear, On the ground, the damage is impossible to ignore.
We're losing several feet on most paths across the topping, so as you can see here, where the ground level used to be, climate change is slowly eroding it away, dropping it down to where we're stood now.
And is that the weather, the climate that's doing that, or is it footfall?
It's certainly a combination of both. So footfall takes the original grass layer off, which sort of anchors the quite thin soils we have. Then we get rain, which these gullies you can see have started to drag the excess soil all the way back down to the topping as well. So it's really battling the elements while still trying to provide a really nice experience for people.
Many tons of stone and aggregate are being airlifted into place to relay paths to the top. It's a project that's been 10 years in the planning as those who care for our landscape adapt to the challenges it faces.
Climate change, we've had very, very wet weather. We go from incredibly dry spells to really wet spells. We're having to think right across our portfolio how our land is managed, what we need to do and when we need to do it. We're having to adapt everything in terms of how this climate is changing for people and for nature.
6 paths covering 1.4 kilometres are now being repaired. This follows work to restore the main path to the summit. It's a £750,000 job, which will take until the autumn and starts with 3 days of helicopter lifts.
That's very costly, but it's important because it's the only way otherwise that we can do it. We'd rather get it right and then not have to come and find that in 5 or 10 years' time we've got to redo it. So a huge investment over 3 or 4 years will see Rosebery properly restored as an iconic destination and a place that everyone can visit and enjoy.
Rosebery Topping will stay open to visitors throughout the work, visitors who are encouraged to come and also to help the hill recover by sticking to the new paths. Julia Barth from ITV News, Rosebery Topping.
Interesting work going on, isn't it? Now, on to some sport briefly. An incident involving the England and Durham cricketer Ben Stokes is being investigated by the sport's governing body. The England and Wales Cricket Board say Stokes and another England player, Gus Atkinson, were involved in a breach of team protocols after a night out celebrating Sunday's win over New Zealand at Lord's. The pair could face suspensions and fines. Stokes, the England captain, could be forced to miss the next test.
Now, a woman from Newcastle who was said to be England's first female historian is among historical women who campaigners say have been largely forgotten.
Elizabeth Elstob was one of the country's earliest feminists. She was also a writer, and she published the first grammar guide in English rather than in Latin. Kevin Ashford reports.
There are famous female figures featured in the pages of our history, like Queen Victoria, Florence Nightingale and Emmeline Pankhurst. But campaigners say far too many women and the roles they've played are ignored. Like Elizabeth Elstob, an historian and writer from Newcastle.
In 1715, she published a book called The Rudiments of Grammar, which was the first book of its kind to be published in English rather than Latin, making it accessible to people who previously had no resources on this topic.
She's among a number of women featured in a new campaign aimed at highlighting the female figures missing from the records. Research suggests that fewer than 1 in 5 named figures in school history textbooks are women, and more than half the people questioned in a survey admitted they're more confident naming male historical figures than female ones. Selina Vickers didn't know that her great-aunt, Annie Wainwright Hyatt, was one of the country's first female GPs, until she began researching her family tree.
She qualified with a double degree in 1906 and faced a lot of prejudice from male counterparts who thought she was the nurse, refused to see her, wanted to see the doctor, and also faced the opposition from the wider community.
It's so important because if we don't have a true 50-50 balance in the historical narratives, we're not getting a true representation of history, and that really will inform the future. So we're trying to say future generations need to have a better balanced history so that we can understand our world.
Women in our history are often anonymous figures, and researchers and teachers are being encouraged, where possible, to name them and to record their impact. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Now, the bravery of those who lived through the bombing of Tyneside in the Second World War feature in a new book about Britain in the Blitz, written by a local Gulf War veteran.
RAF navigator John Nichol was shot down and captured in Iraq. He says the wartime exploration into his hometown of North Shields found many unexpected parallels with more recent conflicts, as Helen Carnell reports.
This is a time for everyone to stand together.
We weren't sort of prepared for it. I mean, Churchill used to say, well, there's going to be a war, but didn't really realise that we were going to get bombed.
He said he did not agree with the war, and he sent this message back home.
Dad, if you're listening, everything is okay here. Please pray for me. We should be home soon.
They were wounded by wars 50 years apart, but John and Millie, both from North Shields, had been brought together by the striking similarity of their mental scars. 99-year-old Millie Matthews was just 14 when her carefree childhood came under fire with the bombing of the town's Wilkinson's lemonade factory in 1941. She was among 192 people who'd taken shelter there. 107 were killed.
There was no noise. It was absolutely dead silent. Then I heard this lady shouting, "Can anybody see a light?" I shouted out, "Oh, yes, I can see the light." So she says, "Well, do you think you could climb up and put your finger or a hand or something through where you could see the light?" I did that, climbing on bodies. There was kids was hanging on to us like this, pulled it through. And Auntie Cathy was killed. She must have been just shot to bits.
It's a haunting insight captured by the book's author, himself bombed during service in 1991, who wanted to know what his late mother had lived through.
So Millie was exactly the same age as my mother, and Millie lived maybe, 200, 300, 400 yards from where my mum lived during the war. They didn't know each other, but she became my guide. And it did make me regret that, my mum died during COVID, and we never spoke about the war. And that was kind of the key to the book. She never spoke about her war to me. I didn't speak about my war to her.
Researching the book, which covers the largely untold stories of the Blitz outside London, led to frank conversations about the lifelong psychological damage of war.
Millie and I were comparing wartime experiences, her about the Blitz, me about being bombed in Baghdad when I was a prisoner of war. And I was thinking, that was my war, especially when she was talking about the after effects. Really, really hit me hard. The crashes of thunder during a storm. That's what I'm like because of the explosions. When she says she doesn't want to be in Eldon Square and crowds, that's what I'm like.
If I heard a car backfiring, like that, it's with you all your life. I'm just glad I'm here.
The unifying message: we should celebrate freedom and remember the fallen.
Victory, won not only for ourselves, but for all.
Well, Millie and John, linked by their experiences across the years there. Right, next tonight is a change of subject. They were responsible for some of the biggest hits of the late 80s and early 90s as a band, and now one of their founding members is taking those songs out on tour as a solo artist.
Yes, Prefab Sprout was formed in Whitton Gilbert in County Durham by brothers Paddy and Martin McAloon in 1978. They went on to release a string of singles and albums, and now Martin's back on the road by himself. He came to the studio a little bit earlier to tell me all about it. Martin, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting to us.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for having us.
We are lucky to have you because you are a very busy man, still touring, still loving it. You've just told me before we started recording that you've come back from Tokyo. So tell us what all this is about, this touring and performing.
I think when the pandemic occurred, I think there's a little switch goes off in your mind and thinks, I'm going to do whatever I want for the rest of my life, and touring seemed to be the thing. It's totally got me, and I'm hooked.
That's fantastic.
And I'm enjoying every second of it.
Absolutely, and I'm sure the audiences are as well, because there'll be lots of people, Martin, that come to see you who are Prefab Sprout fans and who loved the music all those years ago and still love it, but new audiences as well, and that must kind of bring new life into it. Are you finding that?
You'll find that people who've loved the records have had children who've now probably having their own children, and there's generations of people coming along, and they'll come along and they'll have been dragged up by these parents listening to these songs in the car when they were kids. It's wonderful.
People still know all the words.
They know the words, but they all have stories associated with them and memories. That it's overwhelming when you hear them coming back and what these songs mean to them.
I guess that's the gift of the passage of time. If you're around long enough, Martin, and you have a long career, you get to see it through new generations. Is it very different?
They keep it young for me. They keep it fresh.
Yeah, which is maybe one of the reasons that you still love it so much. Is it different from 40 years ago to performing and today?
Well, when I was a kid and I was playing the bass guitar in the band, so I was nowhere near a microphone, and I'd go to a gig and I'd put my shield on. The bass would be my shield, and I would hide behind it. Whereas now I'm a bit more exposed. I've got no band. It's just me, guitar and voice, and it's completely different. And I do it all myself, so it's a
scary
thrill.
as well,
It's a bit scary. I was a bit nervous. I played Newcastle City Hall just 2 weeks ago, and I was there with Thomas Dolby from the 80s, and I was quite nervous before that gig. But usually I'm all right. I think Newcastle makes me nervous.
Yeah, the local crowd.
Yeah, you kind of think, okay.
The local crowd. Well, Martin, we wish you all the very best of luck with all performing. It's great to see you've still got the love and the buzz for it, and we really appreciate your time. Enjoy it. Good luck. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It was so lovely to chat to Martin. What a great bloke. He's going to be performing on the 4th of July at the Sunderland Summer Streets Festival, and then he's going to be heading out on tour across the UK this October.
Right, weather time. We need a good forecast for running. 'Twas on the 9th of June today, 1862, on a summer's afternoon, the Blaydon Race.
I mean, it doesn't feel like a summer's afternoon, does it? It does not. But yeah, the Blaydon races will be kicking off at 7:15. Here are some people heading to the start line on the Newcastle quayside. 5.9 mile route to Blaydon. It's based on the lyrics of that 1862 song, The Blaydon Races there. Although the race in its current form was first held in 1981. And this year they'll be racing against heavy, thundery downpours. Of course they will. We all have been today, haven't we? Good few flashes of lightning have been developing, certainly through the afternoon. Even some hail in the mix as well. Probably decent running weather, I'd argue, if you do avoid the showers, because, well, this time 2 weeks ago we were talking about nearly 30 degrees, which is not great for running. Yeah, no, it doesn't feel like it was just 2 weeks ago, does it? Will it improve? Let's take a look at the forecast.
Expect clear skies, island vibes, and afternoons made for exploring. TUI sponsors ITV Tyne's weather.
We still have some heavy showers dotted around at the moment. They will tend to disappear through the late evening. Overnight, some clearer skies, some lighter breezes. Temperatures chilly for the time of year. Sunshine and showers once again into tomorrow. It is going to stay unsettled through the next few days, although calming down and warming up just in time for the weekend. The flow's coming in from the west at the moment. Low pressure systems sitting up towards the north, keeping those showers bubbling up. So similar story through tomorrow, although we are looking at lighter winds. Into Thursday, the winds pick up again and a more organised band of rain is moving in. Some heavy bursts on that, but also the sign of a warm front. As that clears through, we're seeing those temperatures lifting. For now, the showers hit and miss, but still on the heavier side. As we pass around midnight, most of those have disappeared. We get clearer skies, the lighter breezes, and so those falling temperatures. We're talking 4 or 5 degrees in some towns and cities, lower in those more sheltered rural spots where we could see a little bit of grass frost around into tomorrow morning. Very unusual for the time of year. But with sunrise at around 4:30, quickly those temperatures will start to climb. Similar to today, the clouds coming and going, the showers bubbling up, sometimes merging together, forming longer spells of rain. We're looking at lighter winds, they're slower moving, highs of around 14 or 15 degrees. Still a little bit disappointing for the time of year. As we fast forward through the next few days, so showers through Wednesday, Thursday, we're seeing that area of rain moving through. Then we start to watch the south. High pressure is beginning to build as we head through the late part of Friday and into Saturday. That is gradually going to calm things down. Although cloud amounts will vary, it's looking drier and we're starting to drag up that warmer air. So yes, very up and down through the next few days. Wet on Thursday. By Friday, more in the way of sunshine. By Saturday, we're looking at highs of 22 degrees.
TUI sponsors ITV Tyne's weather.
making the most of summer. Piri sponsors ITV pollen count.
There is a bit of grass pollen around at the moment, so in any fine weather we are seeing moderate levels, generally low over the next couple of days as things turn wet and windy at times, although with warmer conditions on the way, moderate by Friday.
Thank you, Ross. In just a moment, the national and the international news.
And that's it from us. Good luck if you are taking part in the Bladen race. Get a shimmy on. Starts in 45 minutes. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.